All right, we're live. How's it going, Harris?
Oh,
Thank you for spending some time with us, man. I appreciate it.
yeah, it's a great time to have conversations. There's not much else to do right now.
There's not so much. Yeah. So I know you represent some clients on the real estate side also. How's the market looking for you?
Well, I'm an attorney and I'm a realtor, so I see a lot of different perspectives of what's going on. And um, you know, legally, what I'm seeing is that there's a halt on foreclosures and there's a halt on final evictions. So, a lot of people are starting to get to a point where their mortgage payments were due or the rent payments were due April 1st, and it was kind of the first real moment of the quarantine and unemployment situation that has brought a deadline. So with that deadline, people are going to start defaulting. And now the government has put in place certain provisions that are going to prevent the banks from foreclosing on people as long as they take action affirmatively. So it's not about just not making your payment. It's about calling up your lender and telling them that you're having financial difficulties and formally requesting that forbearance. And that's important for people to know who have mortgages and are having struggles to make payments, is not to just bury your head in the sand, to be proactive and contact your mortgage company, request the forbearance over the phone. And I think they're under instructions to automatically grant you several months of that.
Yeah.
And then potentially more, but you have to continue to stay in touch and reiterate your financial distress with the lender. And they're not really making people sign off on authorizations. I think they're verbally taking people's word for it. So, they can kind of just click a button and move your payment back 90 days. And then there's certain options from there, which you probably know, where, you can put the money on the back. There, some lenders, I believe, are supposed to take interest free during this time. So you don't accrue extra interest due to this specific hardship. So there's a lot of things that people can do. And one of the big things that I helped people with from 2008 to 2013 was foreclosure defense. And also short sales and cash for keys and all these programs that evolved. So I can definitely see a scenario 6 to 12 months down the road where we're in a very similar situation that we were in 2009. Now, I don't think it's going to be the exact same because that was really on the lending side, and this is going to be more on the consumer.
Yeah, what I can say to that real quick, Harris, is that in 2008, the banks were in the middle of it, and now it seems as if the banks are actually the ones helping, right? So they do offer the forbearance, the deferred payments, and so forth. What to take from that, definitely, guys, is don't do nothing, right? If you can make your mortgage payment, make your mortgage payment. If you cannot, don't just sit there and hope that they'll defer, automatically. It's definitely what you said. Absolutely call your lender and have that conversation, right? So you can defer your payments, and then there are different options. We're learning more as the process evolves. There are some lenders that will make you have you pay all of the deferred payments all at once on that month or the first month that comes back. There are some lenders that are moving it towards the end. It's definitely not a payment forgiveness, and I keep trying to get that across to my clients. You will have to pay it. It's just a matter of when you pay it, right?
Right.
Yeah, definitely not do anything. It's not the answer to that. So,
right.
I really don't think that we'll see a spike in foreclosures or short sales, mainly because we haven't seen the equities in these homes evaporate, right? Obviously,
not yet. But I mean, what's going to happen in 6 or 12 months if people continue to stay unemployed and if people continue to not make mortgage payments?
Yeah.
Because I think you're going to see I don't think it's going to be at the levels of 2009, but I will guarantee you there is an increase in foreclosures.
Yeah. Ultimately, if the virus doesn't go away and we can't reopen our doors, yeah, I mean, it's inevitable, right?
Well, even if it does go away, or subside, or we develop treatments, then I honestly believe that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I just think that the economic cycle is historical. And when you see that kind of unemployment, you're going to see defaults.
Yep. Yeah, it's just that now it feels there's initiative, right, from the lenders. So it keeps me hopeful. It keeps me positive. I really don't want to think about a foreclosure short sale, snowball 6-12 months down the line. I think that once we get this virus under control, I really feel we'll hit the ground running again with housing, lending, with obviously the economy as a whole. So we've been quarantined. I think we're mandatory until the end of April, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, but I think there's going to be different subsects of the population. It's not going to be as broad-based as it was in 2009. There's going to be those people that businesses could not come back from.
Yeah.
And those people are going to have a very, very difficult time getting their income back to the levels that they were at in order to pay their mortgages. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to re-employ themselves, and they're going to have income that are going to be at a similar level, and they'll be able to start making payments. And then there's going to be those people that are going to be able to, keep their income somewhat stable throughout the process because their business isn't as dependent on, the entertainment, the travel. It's a little more, insulated from the economic cycles. So I just think, there's different groups of people that are going to have different lasting effects in different ways.
Yeah.
And, I think one of the most important things when you're dealing with any difficult situation is to recognize the possibility of a downside, because if you don't, then you're going to get broadsided by it. So, you have to recognize, even though you hope certain things won't happen, that, certain possibilities exist. And as a result, we all have to make arrangements ahead of time. So when they happen,
absolutely. Yeah.
We'll be better off for it.
And, since this extended quarantine, have you seen any spike or any increase in domestic cases on your end, or in any cases?
Funny, actually, I got a text this morning that someone was looking to get a restraining order.
On their
and
wife.
I've seen a lot of notes about a spike in, people looking for divorces or people looking for, domestic violence restraining orders. And I think that's just, when people are under stress and anxiety, and their relationship, has some issues, they become exposed, and that's, unfortunate, but that's just human nature. But, I think at the end of the day, I genuinely feel, that although we're living in this science fiction movie right now, I don't think we're going to be going underground. Like, we're not going to go full on 12 Monkeys here, if you've ever seen that movie.
No, I haven't, but I'll take a look now.
Well, there was a movie, and basically, there was, a similar kind of thing where, a disease kind of spread across the earth, and then, over a period of time, everyone lived underground, and they sent Bruce Willis's character back in time into the mid to late 90s to try and stop the disease, because they knew where it came from. So, in this circumstance, we certainly hope that our medicine and that our ability to deal with, medical issues will overcome it. And I believe that, and honestly, I think you have to believe that. And if you don't, then, it won't matter anyway. So
yes, staying positive is definitely important. I'll check it out, man. Is it on Netflix?
It's it's one of those things. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon. It's a great movie. Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt, fantastic.
Sweet, man. So I wanted to ask you, because I was curious, right? Like, are there any cases going on in the courts now? I mean, what happens if you have to take somebody to court?
Well, right now, I mean, there's no trials. There's ways to have emergency hearings. Judges are signing orders in the background, so you can submit things electronically. Fortunately, in the last year or two, we've transitioned largely to an electronic filing system and electronic submissions to courts. So it's not as where it used to be, where you have to drop something off.
Yeah.
So the court system is moving. It's not moving as it normally would, but things are definitely happening. So if people are having people that are going into default, like if there's a commercial landlord or a commercial tenant or a residential landlord or tenant, it's important that they speak to us now about what's going on. So when things come up out of this fog, that you're in the best position to not lose any more time.
Yeah.
So.
And what would qualify as an emergency hearing?
Well, normally emergencies are things that, if they're not addressed, would not be able to be fixed later. Certain things, it's like, all right, this guy didn't hand over this piece of paper. He had an order to do it. That can be dealt with in 30 days. But, if you have someone, who's in like a guardianship, whose, mental health is decompensating, or their assets are at risk, their health is at risk, these are things that have to be, they're not competent to proceed. You have to, get emergency guardianship set up, like those kinds of things. In criminal court, people are, we're seeing some pretrial release, for people that, are trying to get bonds. And in the civil court, there's a lot of moving paper around. So, in my civil cases, I can still file things. I can still file responses. People are still filing responses. I'm still having, interactions with other lawyers, other insurance adjusters on insurance claims. So, a lot of the civil world is still set up to work remotely, whether the lawyers or employees of large companies. Some of them worked remotely before. So things are moving, and I think in my field, I have a little more insulation from the economy. We're going to have a drag in our fiscal numbers, there's no question. And especially down the road, when we have this moratorium of people being able to really hire us, we're going to have a drag. But it's not like a restaurant where we can't make a dollar.
Yeah.
So, we're still doing our best to focus on the things we can control. And, in these times of uncertainty, that's all we can do. I'm sure you're doing the same. I mean, talk to me about what you're doing in the mortgages right now. The rates are going up and down. People's incomes are in question. I mean, how are you handling the day-to-day?
So there's a lot of changes happening now where the underwriting guidelines are tightening up a little bit as a response, right, to this whole thing that's happening. So what we're seeing across the board is, the debt to income ratios, the percent that a client normally qualifies for, that has been decreased a bit, right? So for example, the FHA's bringing it down. The maximum debt to income allowed was 56%, and now it's down to, 50% if the client has, some money left over in the bank, what we call reserves, or 45% if the client doesn't have reserves. So in other words, if the client's buying FHA and they use all of their money for down payment, closing costs, and so forth, the maximum debt to income allowed is 45%, right? It was at 56 before. So that's an 11% decrease on what you can qualify for. So it's a big difference in what, clients are able to purchase now, and also a big change that happened this week is all self-employed clients are being, their qualified income is being decreased by 25%.
Wow.
Right. So there's a way to get around that. And, if the client can show that he'll have 12 months of mortgage payments left over in his bank after closing, then, that decrease doesn't happen. But still, I mean, who usually has, a whole year's worth of mortgage payment left over? It's a small percent of first-time home buyers out there that have that type of money left over in the bank. So anyone that's self-employed like yourself, me, and anyone in that's a contractor, we just lost 25% of our qualifiable income due to the regulation.
Well,
right?
I think that the banks, when we got in trouble in the mid 2000s, it was because they went the other way with it, where they were giving people more money based on verbal incomes, and
they weren't verifying
they've learned their lesson.
Yeah. So it's a reaction, obviously, right, to what's happening. There's everything's closing, business is down overall. Some businesses are just not operating, so it's I understand why they did it. And as soon as the economy picks up again, that we open our doors, obviously that I hope that'll go away, right? But it seems to be the responsible thing to do, right? I mean, if you have
I don't know how they come up with a certain number. I guess they just kind of figure this will give them some wiggle room. But
and then obviously if what we tell our clients that are self-employed, if you're in the market to buy now, and your business is closed, you're not making any sales, let's put it on hold. I mean, it makes no sense for us to go out and find you a home and qualify you if you're not making any money, right? So it goes back to being responsible with that. I think the banks are also playing a role, right? Taking things like decreasing the allowable debt to income, and things like that, right? Requiring clients to have some money left over in the bank. So I think they're being responsible. I think it's the right thing to do. But it's from the client's perspective. There's also some steps that or some responsibilities still left on their shoulders, right? Because someone like you and I, for example, the way we get qualified is on the past 2 years' tax returns, right? So it's not so much what we make now; it's just what we've made in the last 2 years as an average. That's how we get qualified, right? And if we close our doors now, I can still show my last 2 years' tax returns, and I can still tell the bank I can qualify for this house. But it's not the right thing to do. It's not the responsible thing to do, right? So there is still some responsibility left on our shoulders. I think the banks are playing their part. I think it's time for.
I think the lenders are going to have to require you to give updated income statements year to date to verify that your income is consistent, and that's an easy way
if you want to take that a step further, also you can have or ask for bank statements that make sure that whatever income statements you're producing are supported, right, by the deposits you're making.
I mean, I know when I was closing on a home 2 years ago, they continued to ask me for those things. So
I mean, when it comes to profit and loss statements and things like that, it's part of the underwriting requirements that we have, right? We always ask for some type of profit and loss financial statement from self-employed borrowers, but we are not required to ask for bank statements, for example, that support all of those deposits, right? So that may be something that that may be implemented. I haven't heard anything like that yet, but I mean, it goes back to being responsible, right? If you're not making money now, just hold on for a month or two.
I mean, the more the default risk goes up, the more the lenders are going to tighten up on their underwriting criteria.
Yeah. What's different now is they jumped ahead of it, right? So now, right at the they came out and said, all right, we're decreasing the amount that you can qualify for. We're decreasing this, decreasing that, increasing the amount of money you need in the bank, and so forth. I think that's good, right? As far as the rates go, it's a roller coaster every day. We can see a 3% at 10 a.m. and then a 4% by 3 o'clock. So what I'm telling our clients, what I'm telling our clients is just put in the applications and we'll rate watch, right? We'll keep an eye out. As soon as there's a dip that I think that you can take advantage of, you'll get a phone call from me and we're locking it in. That's the way we're handling that.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've worked with you before in a similar situation, and that's one of the things that you seem to be very good at, is having a feel for the market when things are kind of coming up and down.
Yeah.
And having your clients trust you to lock in those rates.
Yeah.
So definitely is something that people need to trust you on. And, you know, I think one of the beneficial things will be once we stabilize in the economy, that the rates should stabilize more too. And there'll probably be a lot of low rates because there'll be mandates to have people refinance who were, you know, got behind or did forbearance agreements. And there'll be a lot of, you know, different programs, you know, that they'll probably try and get ahead of the foreclosure crisis and do it in that kind of a way.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, there's a lot of opportunities for you know, the banks to get ahead of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, and again, and I keep telling my clients, right, we get phone calls every day about refinancing, and you know, there are some clients that are very rate sensitive, right? That they'll see a 3.25, but you know, they will want to hold on to get a 3.125 instead. You know,
Right.
what I tell all my clients, especially those, is you can't wait until you have that 3.13% available in the bank for you then to start your process.
No,
It just creates a backlog, right? And then by the time you get the application and you sign, we collect documents, we get it into underwriting, you know, maybe a week passed, that rate could be gone, right? So so when you and I worked together before, that's one of the things I appreciated. I said, let's do this. And you know, you jumped in and you said, all right, we'll be ready. And you know, you got a phone call from me and I said, this is the time to log in. And you know, we were able to do that. I think, you know, as long as you handle it correctly, you set the right expectations, I think you'll be able to take advantage of the low rates. They are out there. It's just that it's a roller coaster now, right? They change 2 or 3 times a day. So,
right. Well, we got to ride the waves.
yeah, man. And you know, one of the things I kind of wrote down that I wanted to ask you, right? So since I know you come across and again, to go back, I've used your office before services, and you guys are, you know, phenomenal. I can't stress enough the you know, the amount of attention that we got from you guys, and I really, really appreciate that. You know, I think I called you once, like at 11 o'clock at night, my sister had an accident, and you know, you were all over it. So I thank you, man. I couldn't thank you enough. So some common misconceptions, right? Like when I get pulled over and the officer asks me to get out of the car, do I have to get out of the car?
I think the more you cooperate with law enforcement, the less likely you are to run into any unnecessary potential conflict. In general, you know, like if you refuse, then you're going to flag yourself to the officer that, hey, something's going on here. Whereas if you step out of the car and comply in a peaceful manner, in a calm manner, as much as you can, then, you know, hopefully that'll help the officer feel comfortable and eventually, you know, go a little easier on you.
What if you feel the officer is not being courteous, I guess the right word. I don't know.
I mean, you can ask them, you know, what the reason is, you know, that they're asking you. Officer, why did you pull me over? Officer, why are you asking me to step out of the car? You may or may not like their answer. You know, I think at the end of the day, you know, being defensive or short with any police officer is always going to end up in a worse situation than it could have been. Even if you were just pulled over for like a speeding ticket, you could end up with 6 tickets.
That would be nonchalant.
As opposed to getting 1 speeding ticket, or sometimes they may even give you a warning. If they can say, all right, let me check your driving record. If you have a good driving record, you're respectful. You know, a lot of times they may just kind of let you go. Whereas if, you know, you upset the officer, then they're going to
You're going
do
to
the
get a
opposite.
ticket for every window that's tinted dark.
That's my law partner back there.
I heard that, yes. Well, I don't have tint on my window, but
Right. So make sure your tints are legal.
You do now.
Legal tints. Right. Exactly.
can I if something like that's happening, am I allowed to record, or should I record? I mean,
Well, I mean, most of the time nowadays, officers have what's called body-worn camera, where when they interact with people, they're supposed to click it on, and actually it has recordings. So a lot of times, you know, now when I'm defending a criminal case, we get to request the body worn camera. So you get to see the whole incident from like 7 different perspectives if there's 7 different officers. And you can just watch hours of like this whole thing, and you can see everything that happened, all the conversations. It's it's like watching cops. And it can be helpful, it can be hurtful, it just depends on what the case was. So we've moved to a situation where most of the time things are recorded whether you like it or not. And the officers did that, I think, in a response to a lot of the allegations of excessive force and those kinds of things. So now they're trying to keep everyone on an even playing field. The law says if you want to record someone, you're supposed to put them on notice of it.
Good to know.
And if you don't, then you could be illegally recording someone and possibly committing a crime. So if you're ever recording someone on a phone line, that's why they always hear, please be aware that this line is being recorded. And they have to give you that notice, because if they don't, and then later on they try and use something, then it could be thrown out and it could be turned on the person that made the recording. So, it's always a difficult thing. You don't want to like kind of tip someone off that you're recording because they're doing something wrong that you want to kind of record. But there's a science to it, and people have to be very wary of just indiscriminately recording other people without their knowledge.
Makes sense. So what's your best tip that I can have, or you can give me or our audience? Best tip to get out of a traffic ticket?
Just what I said before. I mean, kill them with kindness. The nicer you are to even the meanest police officer, the better it's going to go for you.
The guy on a motorcycle, just don't even ask. Put your hand out.
I wouldn't really, try to engage a lot. I wouldn't really speak a lot. Just kind of give them what they need: license, registration. Be respectful. And just because you got a ticket doesn't mean it's going to go on your record, because you get the ticket and then you send it to me,
right,
or my law partner in South Florida. And, we have an excellent track record of getting people no points, no traffic school, dismissals, really eliminating the damages. So, people get very upset when they get tickets, but at the end of the day, it could really result in, little to no penalty. So don't make it worse. Don't put fuel on the fire, I'd say.
Makes sense, man. Look, Harris, man, I got to ask, you got to tell me a funny story. Someone that you've represented that just blatantly dumb crime that you just made you scratch your head and you're trying to figure out how someone could do such thing. You got anything?
Yeah, I got a good one. So one of my old time clients got in an argument with someone at a gas station, and I think someone had like cut him off, or I don't know, it was some sort of like a road rage incident. And my client, in response, took some gasoline, put it on the person's car, and lit it on fire. And
at a gas station.
At a gas station. So certainly not the brightest response to a stressful situation. I would probably advise against doing anything remotely close to what he did.
Or on camera.
And he ended up with an arson charge. So avoid arson.
Don't play with magic.
Yeah, don't play with fire in response to people getting upset. There's a better way. I think in general it's just really to kind of take the high road in any kind of dispute, whether it's civil or criminal or domestic, and that is how you're gonna lead a less stressful life. People like to kind of turn a bad 5 minutes into a bad day, or so it's just to really kind of work on resilience, to respond in a respectful manner when things don't go well. You see yourself starting to go off the rails, take a step back.
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath. things could look a lot different in 10 seconds after you took a deep breath. And anger clouds judgment. So
yeah, man. And look, Harris, man, I know you're always available on your phone, so I'll share your cell phone number or your office number, whichever one you prefer, on our
yeah, you can give out my cell phone number. At the end of the day, my law firm, we represent the little guy, individuals, families, small businesses involved in civil disputes, probate disputes, accidents, injuries, criminal tickets. We kind of really deal with a wide variety of things, but they all focus on people problems for really, the little guy. So if anything comes up, I'm happy to give anyone 5 or 10 minutes, no charge. I love talking to new people. Even if, people think they're wasting my time, they're not, because, we want to help people live a less anxious existence. And, if we can give someone 5 or 10 minutes, even if we don't make any money on it, that is, has a bigger picture. So,
look, man, and I know firsthand that everything you just said is 100% accurate, right? Because I know I called you a few times after hours to get, my sister out of a traffic ticket and an accident there, and just random.
And no arson. You've never called me for arson.
no arson. I won't light anyone on fire. At least not in a gas station.
Oh my God.
So, man, yeah, I appreciate it, man. You've always, very, very helpful, and I appreciate that. Very honest, and literally available all times of the day. So I appreciate that.
Vice versa. I know that you're very transparent in your transactions, and you're very diligent in, your mortgage business. So, this is, we always try and look out for each other.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps the world going around, regardless of this craziness. So everyone just really needs to, stay positive. When things in your brain start to kind of swell up, just take some breaths. I think I'm having to do that several times a day for different reasons. And that's okay.
Every time I look at the rate sheets, I have to go outside and take a long walk.
Right. Whatever it is, everyone has their different stresses, So, just try and really recognize it and, do your best to handle it well.
Absolutely, man. Hey, thank you, Harris, for spending some time on here with us. Very, very informative. I'll share your contact info, so if anyone has any legal issues, any disputes or anything like that, you are the man to call. So I appreciate that, and thank you, man.
All right, best of luck, and yeah, keep an eye out for those real estate contract and landlord-tenant disputes.
You got it, man. Thank you. Bye, Harris.
All right, good luck, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye, guys.